So growing up with sickle cell, I guess I want to start by saying I was very fortunate in having the parents that took the time to educate themselves to make sure that they knew what I would be dealing with and I knew how to deal with what I would be dealing with. Everything from being different outside in the neighborhood with the guys that I grew up with to elementary school, missing classes, teachers not understanding, things of that nature. Very important to take preventative measures in ensuring less crises growing up and dealing with other illnesses, anything from just like the common cold up to pneumonia, which I have been hospitalized for. Unfortunately, it happens, but I think without their care and their attention, that it would have been a lot. So, of the things I remember from childhood, I remember missing classes for about a week at a time. I remember coming back and not explaining to my friends that I have sickle cell, just letting them know that I was at home sick. But teachers knew. I remember mom, when she would meet the teachers in open house early on in the school year, she would let them know that I was a little bit different from everybody else, and I couldn't be outside in the cold weather during recess or the rainy days. And there will be days that I miss, and I would have to make up my homework, which I did, obviously. Yeah, just making up homework was one of the bigger things. Maybe even making up tests. I remember having to go into the hallway to take a test that the kids already did, so I wouldn't be cheating or anything like that. And I guess it did isolate me a little bit, but I also knew what it was. I knew that I was sick and I had to make up class work. I knew that there wasn't a lot of people in school, if anybody else in that school, that dealt with the same thing that I did. It wasn't too difficult making friends. Those days where I weren't allowed to go outside during recess, I did have a friend who stayed in the gymnasium with me, and we would just shoot hoops or ride around the little scooters just during recess until everybody else came back in, and they would miss me at recess. And it was just me and my friend playing in the gym. And my reason is, it was just too cold for me to go outside, and that was it. Mom made sure the teachers know, and that was the easiest part, I guess. The tough part is not telling people that I had sickle cell, so I didn't have to describe to them what sickle cell is to a bunch of, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth graders that they wouldn't really grasp the concept of it. How would I go into detail telling them that my blood is different than their blood and it causes excruciating pain and, so on and so forth. It was just easier for me to say I was sick at home, and it just took me a long time to get better. And then for those times that I would spend in the hospital, I remember mom and dad, or mom or dad, staying with me around the clock, explaining to me what was going on, making sure I got the right doses at the right times. And there was a lot of times where I saw the not so nice side of my mom when there was a disagreement with the care that I was receiving, or lack thereof in many cases. But she always kept it cool with me, so I didn't feel some kind of way while I was in the hospital, because the pain was enough. Dealing with the pain was enough. Coughing, wheezing, whatever the case may be, whatever I was admitted for, she allowed me to go through that, and that only, where she dealt with the difficult things. And at that age, obviously, that was, her job, and I couldn't have done that. But everything that she did, I picked things from, and it changed the way I would navigate myself in adulthood. And that was the easy part. Mom made it really easy for me growing up. And it wasn't like I was having crisis all the time. Maybe once or twice a school year, I would find myself admitted in the hospital, but all the time in between, I was a normal kid. I was outside playing with the neighborhood guys, playing any bouncer, playing basketball in the driveway or flag touch football. And I would be able to hang with the big dogs, if you know. It wasn't many times where I got too exhausted and I needed to go sit down before everybody else did. I felt normal. I just had those moments where I was in the hospital, but outside of those moments, I was a normal kid, you know? I still had to make sure I was dressed for the occasions and, had my coat on in the wintertime or had my water in the summertime, just making sure that I did what I needed to prevent having more crises. And all of that, like I said, was fairly easy with my parents. And I learned a lot so that it became second nature. Absolutely, not even like habit. It was just a part of life for me. And again, that was something I took into adulthood. And the part of childhood where I was around other warriors like myself, it was also fun. It was cool being around people who deal with the same things you do. I don't think I made enough friends during childhood to have sickle cell. I did make a couple, and that was either through the American Sickle Cell Anemia Association or the Bureau of Children with Medical Handicaps. Those were two programs or events that I did when I was younger, and that was basically just being around other warriors, talking about our struggles, talking about different advancements when it comes to medicines and care that we were receiving. But it was a little bit of it was just different. It was different yet calming, just to realize that there are other people close to you that suffer the same way that you do. And it's not always a suffer. We still have lives outside of our illnesses that we navigate, and just hearing the different things that other people are able to do, that was pretty awesome. In the Bureau of Children with Medical Handicaps, that was a little bit different. That was when I would be alongside other warriors and people who suffer with other illnesses. There were people who had autism that were also there, and that was when we basically just tried to come up with different ways of how to deal with the outside world, yet realizing that we also are a part of that world, but we're separate from everybody else. That was a short-lived one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so BCMH was a little bit different, but very similar to all the other ones. It just involved people that dealt with other illnesses as well. But overall, I believe I had a really good childhood. It didn't hinder, it didn't halt us from being a family. It didn't stop us from being together, whether it was at my bedside or at home. The family was always there for me. And even up to this day, I'm very fortunate to be blessed with the family that I have. The parents that I have, my sisters are amazing. And being an uncle to a kid and seeing her childhood and how it was different than mine is just really awesome.